5:21 local time. Steel shutters snap open along the forward edge of the flight deck. Not alarms, not yet. Just mechanics moving in places they normally would not be moving this early. On the bridge, nobody looks up. They do not need to. New surface contacts bearing 218. The words arrive flat and professional, stripped of emotion, no urgency in the voice. And somehow, that is exactly what makes people pause. Inside the Combat Information Center, 3 faint returns sharpen on the scope. At first glance, they look ordinary enough, low-profile surface contacts riding clean water with minimal wake. Then the numbers begin to change. Speed increases, then increases again. Confirm 3 contacts. The tactical coordinator says it once, and the answer comes back immediately. 3 confirmed. The carrier stays on course at 25 knots, moving in a straight line without the slightest deviation. Another update follows, tighter now. The contacts are accelerating together. For half a second, hands stop moving. On the flight deck, a yellow shirt freezes mid-step beside a parked fighter. Down in CIC, vectors stretch forward across the plotting table like claws. 3 surface contacts, not scattered, not wandering, moving together with purpose. The radar operator changes scale, and what looked like open water suddenly becomes measured space. Quietly, almost without drama, the closest point of approach begins to shrink. Range, 36 nautical miles and closing. Still far. Far enough that this should feel routine. If it were routine, but it is not. The officer of the deck leans forward, eyes fixed on the repeater. He says nothing yet. He waits for confirmation, already expecting the answer. AIS negative. No transponder flags, nothing visible. Still, the carrier does not slow. It does not turn. Ahead, the ocean remains blue and indifferent, as if none of the tightening geometry beneath it means anything at all. Another voice cuts in from CIC. The contacts are adjusting formation. One holds the center line, the other 2 drift outward by a few degrees, left and right. Not wide enough to scatter, but wide enough to matter. A familiar shape begins to emerge, though no one says its name. Update CPA, recomputing. Now under 8 nautical miles if current vectors hold. At this closing speed, 8 nautical miles is not much time. The bridge stays quiet. No raised voices, no dramatic commands, only controlled breathing and the low, constant hum of systems doing exactly what they were built to do. The escorts are already responding, but so subtly that most people would never notice. A destroyer off the starboard quarter eases inward by less than a cable length. Another adjusts speed by half a knot. Movements so small they would be invisible to anyone not watching the plot. Inside CIC, a watchstander marks the track numbers in red. Contacts maintaining high speed, 28 knots. Fast for warships, faster than necessary. A radio operator sends the first hail, standard and calm. Unidentified surface vessels, this is a United States Navy warship operating in international waters. State your intentions. Only static comes back. No reply, no acknowledgement, no correction. The contacts continue closing. Flight operations pause without anyone having to say the words out loud. Launch crews step back from the catapults. A deck chief raises one hand in a silent hold and keeps it there. No aircraft move. Another update arrives. CPA revised to 6.5 nautical miles. The numbers keep tightening. The sea does not. The officer of the deck finally speaks. Log everything. Every bearing change, every speed increase, every second. In CIC, long-range cameras are slave to the tracks. Grainy silhouettes begin to form on the horizon. Low, angular shapes cutting clean wakes across the water. Warships. Still no flag, still no voice. The carrier keeps pressing ahead, massive and seemingly unbothered, a floating city of steel refusing to acknowledge pressure by reacting to it. One watchstander finally says what everyone is already thinking. They are not shadowing us. He does not need to explain. Shadowing means matching course, matching speed, keeping distance. This is something else. 3 contacts at high speed, coordinated, closing with intent and without announcement. By 5:27, the range falls below 5 nautical miles. No alarm sounds, no weapons swing into motion, nothing theatrical happens. There is only data moving faster and time compressing. On the bridge, the captain stands with his arms loosely crossed. He still has not spoken. He does not need to. The carrier never alters course. And somewhere ahead, 3 warships keep closing, steady and deliberate, as the line between presence and provocation grows thinner. At 5:30 local time, the silhouettes sharpen first, then the details. Angular bows, low freeboard, Twin masts. No fishing gear, no civilian clutter. In CIC, the identification officer does not rush. He never does. He waits until the match is exact. Contact 1 matches Russian Navy surface combatant profile. The bridge gives no reaction beyond a single nod. Confirming contacts 2 and 3, the voice continues, measured and even. Same class family, same signatures. The plotting table updates. 3 Russian warships. No ambiguity now, no guesswork left. The question is no longer who. The question is why. The range ticks down again, 5 nautical miles. The carrier still holds 25 knots in a straight line. No deviation, no visible acknowledgement of pressure. A second hail goes out. Russian naval vessels. This is a United States Navy aircraft carrier operating in international waters. You are closing at high speed. State your intentions. The transmission hangs in the air. Nothing returns except static. On the surface picture, the geometry tightens further. The center ship keeps its bow pointed just ahead of the carrier's projected path. The 2 flanking ships widen their separation, their wakes beginning to form shallow angles that shape the water rather than simply pass through it. This is not random. CPA, now 4 nautical miles, CIC reports. Time to CPA, 8 minutes. 8 minutes is a lifetime in doctrine, an eternity in headlines, and almost nothing at all in the cold math of steel and momentum. One escort shifts again, almost too little to notice. Another slides into a position that turns open water into controlled water. No one announces it. Everyone sees it. Below decks, the electronic warfare suite begins listening harder. Every emission from the Russian ships is logged, catalogued, and timestamped. Every radar sweep is being quietly archived. The carrier remains silent. A third hail is prepared, then held. No one wants to fill the air with words for the sake of words. Language does not calm a moment like this. Posture does. Then the center Russian ship increases speed. Contact 1 now 30 knots. That gets attention. 30 knots puts it on a direct intercept timeline. Not a simple pass, not a shadow, a crossing. The bridge remains calm. The captain finally uncrosses his arms and steps closer to the chart table. How steady is their course? Very steady, comes the answer. No weave, no correction. That matters. A ship that intends to miss usually shows it in small adjustments. A ship that intends to test does not. On the flight deck, the hold stretches longer than anyone likes. Jets sit armed but motionless. Crew members remain ready without moving much, their eyes shifting between the sea and the island. Hardly anyone speaks. Another update comes in. CPA revised to 3.2 nautical miles. 3 miles is inside comfort, inside courtesy, inside that invisible boundary where intent begins to matter more than coincidence. The Russian ships are now close enough for hull numbers to be read through optics, close enough for bridge crews on both sides to see actual people instead of distant symbols. Still, there is no radio response. A watchstander in CIC notes it aloud, mostly for the record. Russian vessels remain silent. Silence can mean restraint. It can also mean resolve. The center ship holds its line. The flankers adjust just enough to narrow the corridor ahead of the carrier's bow. They are not blocking. They are suggesting. The range drops below 3 nautical miles. Mark this point, the officer of the deck says calmly. Marked. This is where international law stops feeling theoretical and begins being documented frame by frame. A destroyer off the port side brings long-range cameras fully online. A helicopter crew moves into its aircraft without rushing. No rotors yet. Presence before noise. The captain finally speaks, his voice low and even. Maintain course. No qualifiers. No conditions. The carrier does not blink. Ahead, the Russian lead ship throws a brighter bow wave as it holds speed. The flankers stay disciplined, neither surging ahead nor falling behind. The formation looks practiced, not improvised. 3 warships, 1 carrier, steel and intention sharing less and less water. Someone in CIC murmurs the obvious. They are not trying to communicate. No one disagrees. CPA now 2 nautical miles. 2 miles is close enough to feel. Close enough that one wrong helm order on either side becomes international news in moments. The carrier presses forward, vast and indifferent, wake unbroken. And for the first time since the initial contact, one truth becomes clear to everyone watching the plot. This is no longer about distance, it is about who changes first. By 5:34 local time, the sea ahead still looks calm. Flat, blue, almost empty. But the picture on the screens tells a completely different story. Contact 1 increasing speed again. The report comes clipped and tighter now than before. 32 knots. That gets everyone's full attention. The Russian lead ship surges forward, its bow wave thickening into white water, clawing up along the hull. It is no longer pacing, no longer hinting, now it is pressing. On the tactical display, the center track stretches toward the carrier's projected path, the line sharpening into something unmistakable. The flanking ships hold their angles with patience and discipline. Their role is no longer speed, it is containment. CPA revised, CIC reports 1.8 nautical miles. The number seems to hang in the air. At that distance, there is no room for drift and no room for misunderstanding. Every rudder input matters, every engine order matters. The officer of the deck keeps his voice level. Confirm intent. After a brief pause, the answer comes back. Contact 1 is on an intercept course. No deviation. That is the moment the mood changes inside the ship. Not dramatically, not visibly, but unmistakably. Consoles seem brighter. Voices drop lower. The carrier's enormous mass keeps moving forward, unhurried and relentless, as if daring the geometry ahead to break itself against the hull. Another hail is transmitted, shorter this time and more direct. Russian naval vessel on bearing 040, you are approaching unsafely. Alter course immediately. The message goes out clear. No reply. The Russian ship does not slow. Range 1.4 nautical miles. On the flight deck, the next order finally comes, spoken softly. Prepare the helo. The crew moves with speed, but without panic. Rotor covers come off. Tie-downs are checked. Nobody runs. Nobody has to. The helicopter is not there to start anything. It is there to say something without words. In CIC, emissions spike for a moment. They are scanning us, the electronic warfare officer says. Low-power surface search, not fire control. Not yet, but active. Everything is being recorded. Every sweep, every pulse, every decision. The Russian lead ship holds 32 knots. The flanking ships tighten their angles just enough to narrow the remaining water ahead of the carrier's bow, turning a stretch of open sea into a corridor that feels smaller with every passing second. They are no longer just moving through the water, they are shaping it, bending the space itself instead of simply passing across it. And this is exactly the kind of moment where accidents are born. CPA drops to 1 nautical mile. Kai calls it out, 1 mile. At 25 knots, that distance disappears faster than anyone would like to admit. On the bridge, the captain steps forward once more. No raised voice, no sharp gestures, just a quiet command. Helm steady. The carrier does not yield. It does not hesitate. Behind him, the helicopter's rotors begin to turn. Slowly at first, almost lazily, then building speed. The sound grows, not aggressive, not overwhelming, just enough to be felt. Not noise, but presence. The Russian lead ship is now close enough that individual details stand out clearly through optics. You can see movement along the deck, silhouettes of crew members near the rails. No weapons are actively manned, but attention is unmistakable. Binoculars are raised. Cameras are rolling. Every side is watching the other. The helicopter lifts cleanly off the deck, rising just high enough to clear the island before leveling out. It does not rush forward. Instead, it moves with purpose, sliding into position where it can be seen, clearly and unmistakably, by everyone involved. This is still restraint. Controlled, deliberate restraint. Holding altitude, the helicopter's sensors come alive. The sea below is instantly transformed into layers of data. Infrared, daylight imagery, stream back in real time. The crew reports calmly. Russian naval vessel bow on. Speed unchanged. The helicopter shifts slightly to the side, never crossing directly overhead, never crowding the ship, never escalating, just close enough to remove any doubt about what is being observed. Then the range drops below half a nautical mile, and for the first time, something changes. The Russian ship hesitates. Not a turn, at least not yet, but something subtle. A flicker in the wake. The white water at the bow shortens slightly. The engines are still pushing, but the rhythm is different now. Contact 1. Speed fluctuating. CIC reports. Down 1 knot, holding, down again. That small change matters more than anything that has happened so far. For the first time since initial contact, the formation is no longer perfectly rigid. The flanking ships maintain position, but their angles stop tightening. They hold where they are, waiting, clearly waiting on the lead. Above them, the helicopter remains steady, cameras locked, recording everything. No lights, no aggressive maneuvers, just observation. Pure, undeniable presence. Then the Russian lead ship eases slightly to port. Just a few degrees. Not enough to be called a full turn, but enough to break the intercept geometry. On the bridge, no one reacts outwardly. Inside CIC, however, the plotting table updates instantly. CPA increasing. The line has been touched but not crossed. The carrier continues forward exactly as before. Same course, same speed, no reaction, no adjustment. It does not chase the moment. It does not acknowledge it. It simply remains where it always intended to be. Behind it, the Russian formation begins to loosen. The sharp, deliberate geometry softens into something less rigid, less coordinated. Nothing has been fired. No voices have been raised, but the decision has been made. 5:48 local time. The first thing everyone notices is what did not happen. The carrier never changed course. No surge, no hesitation, no correction. Just 25 knots on a steady heading, the same path held since the very beginning. The Russian lead ship's slight turn continues, almost invisible but enough. Its bow is no longer pointed toward the carrier's projected track. The wake thins as speed drops, 30 knots, then 29. Subtle, but real. Behind it, the flanking ships pause their outward movement. They do not press forward. They do not tighten the formation. They hold position, suspended somewhere between intent and withdrawal. Inside CIC, the plot refreshes again, CPA increasing. Now 1.2 nautical miles and widening. No one celebrates, no one exhales in relief. This is not victory, it is confirmation. The helicopter remains off the lead ship's beam, maintaining position with quiet discipline. It does not escalate, does not push forward. Its cameras continue recording everything. Clear views of the Russian bridge, antennas, crew movement, every detail captured. A calm radio transmission comes from the helicopter. Professional, controlled, neutral. Russian naval vessel. This is United States Navy aircraft. You are operating unsafely. Your actions are being documented. The message repeats in Russian. Still no reply. But this time the response is visible. The lead ship reduces speed again. 28 knots, then 27. The wake shortens further. The intercept line dissolves completely, turning into a passing track that will miss cleanly rather than cross dangerously. The flanking ships follow, not immediately, but deliberately. Their angles relax. Their bows shift outward, reopening the water ahead of the carrier. The box dissolves, and still the carrier does nothing. No course change, no speed adjustment, no attempt to emphasize control. It simply continues forward, massive, steady, and indifferent, occupying the space it always intended to occupy. One escort subtly widens its position, extending the carrier's protective arc without drawing attention. Another holds steady, adding depth instead of pressure. This is not escalation, this is quiet control. The helicopter shifts slightly, keeping the lead ship centered in its optics as distance increases. No lights, no signals, just observation. Inside CIC, Russian emissions begin to drop. Radar sweeps become less frequent, less assertive. They are backing off, someone says quietly. No one responds. The data already confirms it. On the flight deck, movement returns. Yellow shirts lower their hands. Jet crews resume their work, slowly at first, then normally. Operations pick up as if nothing unusual happened, because for this ship, nothing truly unusual did. The range opens beyond 2 nautical miles. The Russian formation is no longer rigid. The ships spread naturally now, no longer acting as a single coordinated shape. One drifts aft, another angles away completely. The former lead falls back, its intercept fully abandoned. The helicopter remains airborne just long enough to ensure the change is real. No sudden reversals, no last-second decisions. Then it turns back. The landing is routine, uneventful. Rotors slow, the aircraft is secured. On the bridge, the captain steps back from the chart table. He says nothing. There is nothing left to say. Inside CIC, the tracks are downgraded. Red to amber, amber to yellow. Not gone, just no longer threatening. Russian vessels increasing separation. No further aggressive maneuvering. The carrier continues forward. No announcement is made. No statement is prepared. No message is sent. There is no sense of victory waiting to be declared, because this was never about winning. It was about not yielding. For another 20 minutes, the Russian ships remain visible, their silhouettes shrinking as distance grows. They do not return. They do not attempt another approach. The choice has been made, and the carrier made hers by never needing to make one at all. Nothing was fired. No alarms sounded. Yet the outcome is written clearly across the water, in the wake pattern stretching behind each ship. Pressure was applied, a boundary was approached, and without a single shot, the moment resolved. 6:05 local time. The sea closes behind the carrier as if nothing ever happened. Her wake stretches long and clean before fading back into blue. Ahead, the horizon is empty again. On the surface plot, the 3 Russian warships remain, but different now. Separated, looser, no longer moving as one. One trails behind, another drifts wide, the third falls back, its earlier path abandoned. The carrier does not turn to watch them leave. Inside CIC, the transition is quiet. Tracks are reclassified, timelines closed. Every detail, every bearing change, every speed adjustment, every second of silence is preserved. This is the part no one sees. Data is stored, video archived, radar returns saved down to the millisecond. The encounter is no longer unfolding. It becomes record, memory, reference. On the bridge, there is no celebration, no visible relief. Just a smooth return to routine that feels earned precisely because it was never broken. Resume normal operations, already happening. On the flight deck, jets begin moving again. Catapults cycle. The controlled chaos of carrier aviation resumes, as if the last 40 minutes were nothing more than a brief delay. To an outside observer, nothing has changed. But the sea remembers. The Russian ships remain on radar for a while longer, gradually fading into distance. Their emissions stay low. Their movements cautious. They do not test again. They have learned what needed to be learned. The carrier continues on her planned course, unchanged in heading, unchanged in speed, unchanged in posture. She does not adjust to prove a point. That was the point. No dramatic debrief follows. No speeches about restraint or resolve. None are needed. The lesson is built into the moment itself. A carrier does not argue. It does not posture. It simply occupies space. And when that space is challenged, it does not rush to react. It waits. It observes. It lets the other side decide just how close they are willing to come. In the end, the Russian ships did not retreat in panic. They did not flee. They simply changed, and that difference matters. Because this was not a result measured in distance or force. It was measured in decisions, in angles adjusted, in speed reduced, in moments where escalation could have happened, but did not. No line was crossed, but everyone saw exactly where it was. By mid-morning, the entire encounter becomes just another entry in the ship's log. A few lines, a handful of timestamps, a quiet record that pressure was applied and absorbed without breaking. The crew moves on, they always do. Far behind, the Russian ships continue their patrol, wider now, quieter, more cautious about the space they once tried to shape. And far ahead, the carrier keeps moving. Her wake fades behind her. Her course remains steady, her presence unquestioned. She never slowed. And in the end, that is all that matters.